Okay, so today is November 2nd, 2018. This is Stephen Palmer, and I am here at the Stonewall Inn, and I pronounced that correctly, with Sequoia.
Just Tree. Sequoia is only Facebook. They wouldn't let me have one name, so I took the biggest tree there is. So I'm Sequoia on Facebook only. Throughout the world, I'm Tree. I'm Baum in Germany, Boom in Holland, Avery in Portugal. So it's the Tree.
Okay, excellent. I'm glad we got that in there too. Okay. Tree, why don't we start out with you talking a bit about where you were born, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, religion, those influences, and then we'll pull that into early understandings of sexual desire for you.
Okay, I was born in Brooklyn. My mother and father were from Russia, Imperial Russia, under Tsar Nicholas. I have no brothers and sisters. My mother saw me and called it quits. And I was raised Russian Orthodox, but we didn't have that many churches, so we went to Catholicism, which is almost the same thing. We did our Mass in Russian, Catholics did it in Latin in those days. And I went to Catholic school for a while. I went to Bushwick High School for a while, but in the 50s, if you didn't belong to a gang, everybody beat you up. So I was a gang member in Brooklyn called the Halsey Bop, and I got thrown out of high school because I threw a desk out a window.
Could you say the name of that gang again?
Halsey Bops.
Halsey Bops.
B-O-P-S.
H-A-L-S-E-Y? Or?
H-A-L. I lived on Halsey Street at that time. And pause a sec, because that may be.
We're on Halsey Bops.
Halsey Bops. And in Brooklyn in those days, in the 50s, if you didn't belong to a gang, everybody beat you up. And I had inklings about my homosexuality because I used to get excited watching Roy Rogers and Alan Ladd movies. And when I had to go to fight people, I wouldn't try to hurt them that much, but I'd rub against their crotch accidentally. And this is when I was like 15, 16 years old. And I still had no idea I was gay. I just thought this was something, because we played strip poker together and everybody wanted to lose, just to see each other naked. Kids in the neighborhood, And it was fun, And we had a little group, and there was an old man, George Oliver. He used to let us hang out in his house. And he took us to my first gay bar. It was called the Bally Davy, 86 and Broadway. And I walked in shaking because it was a raided premise with a cop sitting at the door.
What year was this?
Oh, God. 57, 58.
What year were you born?
39.
Okay.
I'm going to be 80 on the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. And
you wouldn't be able to tell.
So I'm sitting there. They only served a juice and soda because it was a raided premise. And I saw people going in the back room. After a couple of weeks, I went in the back room. I was so frightened when I came out. My friend said, "What are they doing?" I said, "They're dancing." 2 weeks later, they had to drag me out of the back room because I was doing the slow dance to Johnny Mathis's Maria and the Lindy Hop. And in those days, you did the cha-cha, mambo, merengue. A slow dance was called the grind. It's like having sex, standing up, fully dressed. You knew more about the guy than a date, standing up, doing the dance called the grind. And eventually, then after that, we used to go to a place called, Ham and Eggs on 72nd Street for breakfast. And the 3rd Avenue L used to take us to gay bars, and then we used to go to Bigford's, which was gay at night.
Bickford's?
Bickford's restaurants. There was a chain at the time. And there's no more oh my God, am I old? There's
no it's like the automat.
There's no more 3rd Avenue L's. And I used to have so much fun with my friends, and I never dated anybody, and I accidentally dated a girl and made her pregnant, and she had a baby, and the family took her back to Japan. They made me sign papers that I wouldn't keep. What I was going to do, I'm 15, 16 years old, what am I going to do with a baby? And I haven't seen them since, but I've heard things from her brother that my daughter was married, her daughter was married, her daughter was married. And
you're a great
probably.
grandfather.
And my wife, who never remarried, owns the Shinihon steamship line. Even though she disgraced her father and she had to take her mother's maiden name, he left her everything.
Wow. Well, maybe you could go.
No, everybody says that. I wouldn't do it.
Let me back up a little bit. You're in grade school. Did you have a sense of your sexuality at that time? Was that when you were watching Roy Rogers?
In grammar school, yeah. When my mother used to take me to the movies, she wouldn't tell me what's playing. When I saw Roy Rogers, I would sit in like the second or third row just to stare at the big screen. And at home, on the late, early show, sometimes there was an Alan Ladd movie. And I couldn't figure out why I was laying on the floor, and when they came on screen, I'd sit up. I couldn't figure that out. And eventually I did.
Did your parents have any sense of your homosexuality?
My father, no. I came home one night with 2 bull dykes, and my father was in the kitchen watching TV. He called it the box. He called my bicycle the wheel. And he saw, I says, I have friends. He goes, all right, bring the guys in. And he went to bed. He never knew there were 2 lesbians. They looked more butch than me.
How old were you around that time?
17, 18.
17, 18. And was there any disapproval from your parents?
No. My mother never thought it, because eventually she found out I had made a baby. And she got mad at me because I never told her. My cousins slipped. And I had a boyfriend for 22 years, and she thought roommate, because if you make a baby, it's a roommate. His name was Jose Antonio Otera. He was a viscount of the Spanish government. And so when he was killed in a car crash, I stayed single. Then I met Pat, and he was 25 years younger than me. And it was my birthday, and we took my mother to Sunday brunch at Waverly, right across the street, where Jerry Scott's playing the piano. My mother's Anna Salinka, they called her Sally. So he's playing My Gal Sal, whatever became of Sally. People are sending me champagne. And my mother's looking around. She goes, this is a strange place. I go, why? Look at the haircut on those girls. I go, well, yeah, it's summertime. And whatever. Why is it separated here, men and women? I said, they're mad at each other. And then she looked at Patrick, looked at me, looked at Pat, looked at me, and went, oh. And that was it. From that day on, I took her backstage. She met Tommy Tune, Twiggy, Ruby Keeler, Patsy Kelly. I took her backstage to all the Broadway shows because they were all my friends, because I was reviewing shows in cabaret for magazines, and everybody loved Sally. And then she died I think she was either 96.
What year did she die?
About 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just found out when I went to the doctor what year my knee was operated on. I had no idea.
Dates aren't your thing.
No, I don't. I can't think about them.
I'm like date OCD.
The past is prologue.
If you could talk about the environment, gay bars at that time, late 50s, early 60s, what it was like, raids, or just how men were with each other, how they came on to each other. I understand that you did the grind, so that's a pretty clear one.
In the 50s and 60s, there were gay bars. They weren't classy places. They were dumps because, remember, it was against the law to serve homosexuals alcohol. And that's, who owned all the bars at that time, Uncle Mafia, and they owned the rest. Anything gay, they were partners with you, whether you liked it or not. And if a waiter, they sold tickets to make drinks. Now, if they caught a waiter or a manager reselling a ticket, they broke their arm. But they didn't fire them. They worked with their arm broken so everybody knew what you did. And eventually, if you were nice, they made you a manager of another bar. And we went to the Club 70 where years ago, the big bands played. I mean, it was right near the big museum, and we used to laugh because when you saw the old movies that said the Club 70, and you knew Glenn Miller played there, Benny Goodman played there, now it's a gay bar. And there was one bar I loved called The Fawn, which was on Horatio and Washington. It was an apartment house and then a garage, but the garage was the dance floor in the back, and during a snowstorm it collapsed. And the cops at 5 came, and we were still dancing because we paid $2 to get in, and the jukebox was still working, so we refused to leave. And I used to laugh because I saw people leave the bar drunk and never have alcohol in their drink. Because if you're in the back room and you order a drink, like a Tom Collins, they just make it with sour mix, and I saw people throwing up and sick. I knew they never had a drink. And we knew not to drink anything but beer and soda because they put water in the bottles at the end of the night.
Well, that's a major placebo effect, huh?
Well, oh yeah, but you know what it was?
A hangover.
The brown
from
stuff they put in the Scotch, bourbon, and rye. We had no idea what that was.
Oh man!
There were so many great bars. My favorite was the Cherry Lane Bar, which is now a theater, next to the Cherry Lane Theater was a bar called the Cherry Lane, and Faye Emerson used to go there with her son to make sure he went with the right people. Saw Mathis there a few times, and every time the cops at the raided premise again, and he would say, "I'm going in back," they'd press a button, the lights would come on, we'd put a full tables on the middle of the floor, sit. He'd walk around the room, go sit down, put the light, and we'd start dancing again. When that place closed, I pried a brass fleur-de-lis out of the floor as a memory.
Wow.
I still have it.
Yeah. Mathis was Mathis gay?
Johnny? Oh, he's screaming queen. Oh, never say that. Take that off. Because he's still alive and nice. I met him at the Plaza Hotel. I wrote a song and I wanted him to sing it. And he said, come up. Because he liked young boys. And he was very nice to me. And we had to listen to music. He had all Johnny Mathis albums. The only other album was Lena Horne. Otherwise, I had to listen to Johnny Mathis all day long. And he was very nice to me. I knew what was going on, but he knew no. I was a kid.
Yeah.
Remember, 1955, I worked the rock and roll shows. Buddy Holly, the Crickets. These pictures are all on Facebook. 16, Paul Anka's 14 or 15, Frankie Avalon's 15, Buddy Holly, Little Richard's like 25.
Wow.
And then I fell in love with Kenny Rossi on American Bandstand, 1959-60. So I went to Bandstand. I got on the show, and then I found out Kenny Rossi was the only straight guy on the show. So I started hanging out with all the gay guys on the show. I used to go every weekend to Philadelphia. I used to go to work and get sick. I'd put stuff in my eyes that it would look bloodshot. I'd stick cotton in my mouth. I'd make believe I was going to throw up, and my boss had a weak stomach, so he said, go home. And I'd run and go on the train. And I hung out with all these people.
You're a character.
Now, Arlene Sullivan wrote a book about the closeted cases on Bandstand, and she used some of my photos.
What was the name of that book?
Oh, I don't know. I have it at home.
What's her name?
Arlene Sullivan. She danced with Kenny Rossi. She was one of the biggies on American Bandstand. I danced with Pat Moliteri, Lucilino's partner. And then for Teen Magazine, 1960, I wrote an article called Pat Moliteri, the cutest kitten in captivity, all with K's. And I thank God I still have a copy of that magazine at home. It's a little dark now, brown. So I found something that protects them. And that was the first time I ever wrote anything for a magazine.
Oh, nice. Neat.
Teen Magazine. Now, remember, 1960, I was 21. Mm-hmm. But I used to tell Dick Clark I was 17. And I was this tall, because once you got to a certain age, they threw you off Bandstand. So I used to lie.
Dick Clark. God.
He was so nice. And then
did he know many of his employees were gay?
He knew some of the kids were. But when some of them started dyeing their hair the same color, he threw them off the show. And one night, two of the guys got tired. They knew they were going to leave, so right in front of the camera, they switched partners, and the two guys started dancing, and they moved it that fast. And then he'd come to New York every Saturday, and a show at the Little Theater, which is now the Helen Hayes, I still think. And they did a show with all the Bandstand kids would come, and it was sponsored by, I think, Wrigley's, because I still have the button that says IFIC, because the gum was supposed to be terrific.
Oh.
It's very rusty now. It's green with white lettering, but its back is all rusty. I don't throw anything away.
You were really able to be a gay man in a gay environment.
Sometimes without knowing it. Which drove everybody crazy. I have people saying, you led a life that 4 people have never left. And you're still so active at your age. You dance, you party, you run around like crazy.
What was your sense of your sexuality at the time? Did you feel bad about it? Were you tormented by it? Were you trying to change it?
I didn't want to change it. I didn't know what I was doing. I had sex with a woman once in a while, but I had more sex with men. And then one day I always kid around and said, well, I licked and I joined, and now here I am entertaining you.
Did you enjoy the sex with the women?
Mostly, sometimes I had to, because I was with guys from work, and they brought a prostitute, and we all had to do it. And if I didn't do it, they'd talk, so I had to do it.
So there were spaces where you had to be closeted.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was closeted 3/4 of my life at one point.
When was that?
I said about 3/4 of my life, because I didn't know who the people I was talking to. Like, people I met from Europe, they had no idea I was gay. They had no idea I was trying to pick them up. And my friend Vincent and my friend Pierre in Paris, they were 16, I was 17 or 19 maybe. And I had them at my apartment, and I'm in my apartment 50 years. And in conversation, even though I had them in their underwear, in the conversation I knew they were straight. So we kept writing to each other, and then they came to visit. Then I went to Paris and visited them. And both Pierre and Vincent, we have a friendship of a little over 40 years. The same with Jeremy Lewis, who retired from Scotland Yard. He was a Morris dancer. I met them in Amsterdam, told them I was going to London. They gave me their phone number. I went to Blackheath in England. They had no idea. And I kept going. I went to his wedding. His father would say, I have 5.5 sons. His mother and father loved me. The brothers and sisters and the wives loved me. And then one day they came over here to surprise me with their accordions, because they danced with accordions, into a gay bar. And they were playing those songs they would sing in England during World War II, and everybody had a time of their life. And to this day, they still never mentioned it. And I'm still friends with every one of them, the ones that are alive. Jeremy keeps telling me my brother Rick died, and and Scotty died. But if you're my friend, I never ended a friendship in my life. I always say you have to.
How do you get past hard times with friends who you have bad times with?
I very rarely do. I could count. There was an African American named Michael Koch who used to swear he invented the limbo. And I used to say, no, you didn't. Lord Flea did. And he said, I invented the limbo. I said, Michael, with lips that big, you couldn't get under the stick. And then he says, I was on Life Magazine. I said, no, Bonzo the Chimp. And he'd go to the owner and go, tree dishing me. And the owner would say, don't go down there. And when he got sick, I went to the hospital, brought him flowers, a little teddy bear. I said, you got to get well, because people know we don't like each other. It's so much fun to torture them. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And then it was Roy Arthur Hill, a lawyer. I used to walk in the bar, go, aren't you dead yet? Pass him. And when he got sick, I went to the hospital again, because it was them, not me. I was having fun, not like, making them not like me. It was, all the bartenders and waitresses knew it was
a show. Me. Yep.
It's hard to dislike people. You have to really hurt me for me to dislike you. And so, not wood. I can do it. I'm a tree. Nobody's done it that bad yet.
So moving into, let me get a sense also, moving into the 60s, your political consciousness at the time, civil rights,
couldn't care less.
Movement, anti-war movement?
Couldn't care less. I was so busy being gay. When I found out I was gay, I was gay. Not Screaming Queen. I would go to the bars, the parties. I'd hang out at my friend's house, go to their house. We'd hang out at Mama's Chicken Rib, which was on the corner of Greenwich Avenue and Charles Street, which is now called Wogie. And it was a gay restaurant. Rick Jagger's been seen in there. I'm talking about the 60s. I wound up as a customer, and I said, Mark, I need another cup of coffee, because we knew the bars had lousy liquor. So we'd hang out in this coffee shop with tables full of people from Brooklyn, all gay. Straight people came in not knowing. And Mark one day said, get your own coffee. So I got a cup of coffee. He says, Tree, 2 more, I need 2 more. You know how to make a malt? And I go, yeah. I wound up working there 7 years. And Mama was a little Greek woman who used to say, my boys are not like that. My boys are good boys. And one day she comes up from the basement and goes, she's turning good. What's the matter? She goes, no. Mama, what's the matter? No. Jerry, the cook, with the dishwasher. And we were hysterical laughing. And when she died, her daughter Jeannie said, don't tell Tree where my mother's buried. He always promised to piss on her grave. God. She would take French fries off a table and say, you had too many French fries. All the bread, at the end of the day, even if it was half eaten, became bread pudding.
I understand that, actually.
We worked there, but we never ate that, because we knew. And we loved Mama, but we tortured her, and she tortured us. And then I wound up going to this Ninth Circle, which is gone now. I worked there almost 25 years. My friend Don was the bouncer. And he worked months and months and months straight. So they asked me, would you work a Monday and Tuesday, quiet nights? They'll give me $35 a night. And I said, okay. Because I had a day job of selling cable at Manhattan Cable TV. So as I sat at the door, I'd ask people where they lived and sold them cable. as I was the doorman. I had to actually throw people out once in a while, but when the manager, when I first started, wrote down tree $35 on the gyp sheet, the guy that kept the money for the boys, because the owner lost it once in a while gambling.
The mafia.
Walked around and said, "Where's this tree for $35?" The John goes, "Tree's a person."
What year did you start working at the Ninth Circle?
67, 68, because Janis Joplin used to come in. And as she walked by me, I used to go, Bobby, she'd give me the finger and walk past me. And she'd go up and smoke pot with the owner. I saw Rock Hudson, Peter Allen, oh God, so many stars in there.
I didn't go to the Ninth Circle until like the late 80s or so, but that poster of Joplin was still up front, and that was definitely her handwriting.
It sold for $30,000.
Where did it sell?
The son, when the owner died and he stopped paying off the police, they raided the place. And then it stayed over a couple of months later, people wouldn't go in, and then they sold off the whole thing. Even that big painting of hell on the wall, that wooden, the Ninth Circle. And I found Bobby dead because he ordered food, and when it came, he didn't pick it up. I went upstairs, and he was in bed like this, eyes still open. I didn't know if he was dead or alive. And I swore he was following me, so I found somebody, and they came up and said he's dead. We called the police and everything. If I would have known he was really dead, I would have put something over his face. They found a garbage bag with $38,000 in cash, and the drawer had $18,000 to $20,000 of chips from different casinos in Atlantic City, and a gun. And because he had to go to Gamblers Anonymous every Tuesday, and every Wednesday he went to Atlantic City with the judge of the trial. I kid you not. It was those days. He would come in with 100 White Castles for the whole bar every once in a while. We got $100 a year for every year was there, and I was there almost 25 years.
Wow.
Then I went to Julius's for 5 years. Freddie Lutz and Chuck Dima, who owned the dugout, were trying Badlands. I'm sorry, he owned the Badlands. They would each want me to come because they knew I had a big following, but I knew I was going to go to Freddie Lutz's because it was half a block away. And I let them take me to dinner. I went to Peter Luger's, Stanch's, Jersey.
Peter Luger's, where was that?
In Brooklyn. It's the very famous steakhouse.
There was also one like on Northern Boulevard somewhere.
Well, this is Greenpoint.
Yeah.
And then I worked for Freddie Lutz for 5 years. I loved him. I had so much fun with him. I drove him crazy because he put a sign down here that said, "Wash your hands." I said, "Sure." Short people, you don't think until I used to fight with him. Tall people, can't see that. I would just drive him crazy. And one day, he used to wear a toupee. And one day, they were all sitting at the bar. I go, "Sure, rub it in how much money you got. You have to stab us in the back that you have more money than all of us and we work for you." He says, "What are you talking about?" And I pointed to a truck across the street. It said Rugs, picked up and delivered. And he fired me. By the time I got to the end of the bar, I was rehired because I tortured him. I called him, he was German, so I called him Herr Lutz because he wore a toupee.
That's funny.
I loved the man. He was crazy, but I loved him.
Late 60s, so the civil rights and the anti-war movement weren't big with you. How about the counterculture, the hippie culture?
Well, I wasn't a hippie. I was anti-war, but I didn't join any organizations. I didn't join what's the silent group that used to march in the parade. It took years for me to finally get involved with organizations, and eventually I started seeing things I didn't like, so then I started joining things. I had no idea what the hippie movement was because in the bars in the city here, the hippies were like East Village and all that. We had people with long hair and everything, but they were just our friends, and that we used to come and drink with us. We had the same people. Almost every night, they would come to play pool, and we had shuffleboard games at the Ninth Circle. At Julius's, I used to call up the Robin Bird show, and she would send the strippers down. I'd go, "Hi, it's Tree at Julius's." And she'd go, "Hi, Tree." And how many people are there? Everybody would scream, "Hi, Robin." And then she'd take the guys would come and the girls. And then when we closed Julius's, we'd go to the duplex upstairs where I took pictures of their penises. And when they threw us out, we went to the Five Oaks, which called last call 4430 because it was downstairs. And Marie Blake was playing the piano. And it was called Trees Porn Wednesdays for a couple of years. And Robin and I are still friends.
Oh, wow.
Robin Bird.
Mm-hmm.
I see her on Fire Island.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever we go, she'll go, "Hi, it's Tree." And one night we were at the Gay and Lesbian Center, and she goes, "Everybody say goodbye to Tree." And Brian Batt, the actor, comes over and says, "So you're Tree. I can finally put a face to that name I heard for years." And Brian Batt and I became friends. It's amazing, you know.
Yeah.
I'm outdoor. I always tell people I'm shy, and they all fall on the floor laughing. When I was a kid, my friend said, June Allison is staying at the Pierre. 15 maybe. So one day my mother's getting dressed. I'm putting a suit on. She goes, "Where are you going?" I says, "I'm going to the Pierre Hotel to say hello to June Allison." Swear to God. So I'm walking up 57th Street, and who comes out of a bank but Eddie Albert, who I was with when I was with the Everly Brothers on the Patty Page show. No, Arthur Murray show. He danced, and they were entertaining. And I said, "Hi," and he goes, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" He didn't remember my name. I said, "It's Tree." I was Freddie Tree then. He goes, "Oh, we talked a few minutes." He says, "Where are you heading?" I says, "June Allison." He goes, "Give my love to Junie." So I take the elevator, I think it was 28, and I knock on the door. She goes, "Who is it?" I go, "Message from Eddie Albert." She invited me in. One day, in Backstage magazine years ago, they would tell you who's in town and where to stay. And I always loved Maurice Chevalier. So I call up the hotel. I swear to God, my mother's grave. And I go, "Maurice Chevalier, please." And I go, "Who's calling?" I go, "Freddie Tree." He's not in. I waited 15 minutes. "Maurice Chevalier, please." He goes, "Who's calling?" I go, "Walter Winchell." He picks up the phone. "Hello, Walter, my friend." I go, "Why are you in for Walter Winchell? You're not in for Freddie Tree." I have letters from him, autographed pictures. We stayed friends until he died. My mother used to say she never liked to curse, but she said I used to have the balls of a brass monkey. That anything I wanted to do, she said when I was young, I used to do Al Jolson and Eddie Cantor impersonations when I was 5, 6 years old in the parks for the old people. I don't remember that. My mother would tell me things I did, and I used to laugh. She said, "Your cousins, you sit there and they put your snowsuit on. They would carry tables and chairs for a tea. You would open the door and let them carry everything." She said you were like that all your life, and people just catered to you. And to this day, I have no idea. It was fun. I wouldn't give up my life, even though I lost a lover in a car crash. And Patrick was straight. I turned him a little gay, and then 13 years later, he met a girl. He's married. I'm godfather for kids. He's still my best friend in the world. And the people I've met in my life, I love them all. I look forward to seeing them. Every once in a while, I find out people are still alive that left the city. I always thought they were dead, and I'm so happy. Because every once in a while, the door will open, and "It's Al Tree!" And people will come in I haven't seen in 20 years. I was in Fort Lauderdale, and I took a picture of a Greek food I was eating, and I'm getting messages, "Tree, you're in Florida? I live here." David Dillon, who works for TV down there, I haven't seen him in 30 years when he worked for the original duplex that was on Grove Street.
Yeah.
And people were coming in that I haven't seen in 10, 20 years. We're all meeting at different bars, and I just wanted to cry. And it was so much funny that all the bar owners were my customers. I couldn't pay for shit. They're picking up my dinner check, my drinks, and the bartenders worked at the Monster Night Circle in here that are working down there. It's on me. My lawyer who treated me to Florida goes, "I got to come with you more often." All I had to do is pay for the airfare and hotel.
I'm going to bring it back to Stonewall.
Okay.
And those days. But I want to ask you one other question. How well did you know Janis Joplin?
Enough that she would give me the finger. She would say hello to me. "Bobby asked for lunch. You want me to fire him?" She goes, "Hell no." I said, "He busted my balls," and she also said to somebody once, if I gave him 2 seats to Madison Square Garden, it was sold out, there would be 2 empty seats.
She said that?
Yeah. She told that to John Koch, the manager, and Bobby the Cribbers, the owner. Because I always told her, I thought you were a wonderful human being, but I like singing, not screaming.
You didn't like... Did you ever see her?
Perform? No.
No.
Oh, the people that came in the bar, like Rock Hudson called me lanky. because I had a waist in those days, and he would give me money to find a boy for him for that night. There's one that's alive now that I can't even mention. And I used to have to find boys for him, but now he's happily married with another guy.
Don't say anything, Yoda.
One day at Julius's, the guy picks up the house phone, the pay phone, and goes, "Tree, there's so-and-so on the phone." I go, "Somebody says there's so-and-so." I pick up, that was him. "I'm at this so-and-so hotel, send somebody." So I knew who had sizes, so I'd send somebody. This is before the boyfriend.
Oh boy. Wow.
Good days.
You were in the know. Okay. Stonewall. What, did you frequent this bar?
We came here to dance. Remember, the nail salon was the bar. This whole side was a dance floor. There was an arch. And it was a dump. It was a burnt out bar. They painted everything black. Windows you couldn't see in because it was against the law. You know, the neighborhood cop got like $25 a month. Now remember, eggs were 50 cents a dozen. Bread was... And we'd do line dances like the Madison and Threes and the Cha-Cha Mambo, the Bristol Stomp, all those dances. And we loved it. There was always lesbians and fag hags because, you know, they let anybody in that were friends. We had groups. My friends, Charlie and Bubbles, who are still alive, and I found out Jimmy Brown is still alive in Reno because I ran into him and we looked at each other. And he goes, "Your name, Freddie? Are you Russian?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm Jimmy Brown." And I went, "You bovine." That was the phrase he always used. And we almost hugged hard. We used to do all the dances, and there was a group from Brooklyn, Cliff, and our friends, but we didn't hang out with them. And people always say Sylvia Rivera in here, and I go, "We used to see her in here." We'd say hello. We wouldn't hang out with her. We didn't understand it. She was a drag queen then, not a tranny. And Martha Johnson was a street kid. You know, they let her in once in a while. Drinks were so cheap, but we came in to dance. We paid out a couple of dollars to get in, and sometimes we didn't want anything. We just stay here for 2 hours drinking, and then we go back to Mama's Chicken Rib where we have coffee, sodas, because we knew there was good stuff. The drink of the day then was champagne.
What was that?
It's bubbled beer and wine in a bottle called champagne. It's supposed to be champagne. It was horrible, but that's what we drank at Mama's Chicken Rib. And
You're not the first person to mention Mama's chicken and ribs?
chicken ribs.
Chicken ribs.
Mama owned, you know where the Chinese restaurant is on, it's now a Peruvian restaurant right here on 7th Avenue on that island. That was called Helena Square, became Uncle Louis, and she owned the Moroccan Village on 8th Street. She owned a few places, and her daughter, who would go in and steal the money, and then her husband, Jeannie's husband, would steal the money from her, and Mama would just go crazy because she knew it was her family. I mean, they were Greeks, and we walked in there one day, and Mama's behind the register in a black dress with pearls, worth a lot of money, and she goes, ask me why I wear black? I go, "All right, Mama, why are you wearing black?" "Papa dead." She went to count money. She could actually take all the change, go like this, and go $11.75, and it was $11.75, which drove us crazy because she was money fanatic, like her daughter.
Well, it sounds like she was almost a savant.
She was amazing. We used to torture her. We used to say, "You got smells." "Don't talk like that to Mama. Mama love you." She'd fight. All right. There was a guy named Paul Jabbar working there as a dishwasher, 35 cents an hour. And years later, I'm watching television, and he wins the Academy Award for writing Last Dance. And then he also helped write It's Raining Men. And I ran into him at the old backstage that Ted Hooks, all the movie stars hung out. And we laughed that he was a dishwasher when I knew him. I went to acting school with Nikki Morales, who became Nikki Bentoncourt, then became Nikki Dante, and he wrote a chorus line. They didn't throw me out of acting school. I quit. They threw me out of dance class because the guy said, "Put your leg on the bar," and I did. Then he said, "Put the other leg," and I did a red skeleton. I didn't take the other one down. Fell on the floor, just get out. Joe LaCosta, I studied voice with, but I never practiced. He said, "Get out. You're wasting your money." This is, the 54, when I was, my mother thought I was nuts. I was thinking of walking up and down the street and somebody's going to discover me. it's up here. We used to go to Lindy's and have cheesecake and coffee, and one of us would go to the payphone and call and have the other one paged. I swear to God. Eventually I figured it out and I said, don't come in here anymore.
That's hysterical.
Cecil, we were kids, stupid, young.
Funny.
And Nicky Dante died of AIDS, making like $60,000 a week, but his family gets that. He owed me money. He borrowed all the change I had. He was on a payphone at Sardi's calling his mother in Puerto Rico to tell her he won the Tony.
And with interest, of course, that probably $2 million. So that evening of the raid here at the Stonewall.
All right, we were in here dancing, and we heard screams on that side. And I think Gypsy, one of the drag queens, screamed, my husband's a cop, leave me alone. She wasn't. We got nervous, and the cops would come in, they threw drugs on the floor, because it wasn't the neighborhood precinct. They would come and say, line up girls. And my name in those days was Fenwick Fingernail, because nobody carried out ID, so whatever name you gave them, they wrote down. And as they came in, they were like arguing people. They pushed Stormy DeLivera against the wall, thinking it was a boy, because she had a mustache, and she beat the cop up. And we got nervous, and there was a side crack, and we ran out that. A bunch of us snuck out that way. They let some people out, but they kept Fat Tony, Mario Mae West, the bartender, because they were too big to run. A bunch of drag queens and some lesbians in men's suit shirts. Remember in those days, if you were a girl, you had to have articles of women's clothes. And if you were dressed as a girl, you had to have 3 articles of male clothing, or otherwise you went to jail. And a couple of customers. And we were outside, and then, contrary to the rumor that a high heel broke a window, it was a rock. And I don't know who threw it. They say it was Johnson threw it, somebody threw it. I have no idea, because we heard the crash. And then after we broke the window, and there was a plywood wall there, that fell through. And we're throwing things in. The cops are barricaded in here. They called the 6th precinct, and they said, we're busy, because they got a lot of money to split along to. On Friday, it's called a brown bag. They went to all the gay places, little bags of coffee cups and money in the back of the police car. And in the movie, they have people squirting lighter fluid through the doors and windows. Who carried lighter fluid? We lit garbage cans in the area and threw them through the open windows. Now, we're behind one of the paddy wagons and noticed the lock was just like this. So Charlie and I went like that, it fell off, and everybody ran out. Cops didn't chase her, but the neighbors on this block and around let them go into stores and wouldn't let the police in to arrest them. Because they knew there was a gay bar here. Nobody bothered anybody. Stupid people raided the bar. When I worked at the Night Circle, the ambassador to the Philippines chauffeur was murdered. And they came into my bar and they showed me, I said, they're upstairs playing pinball. And they arrested them. Another time they had people that killed somebody. I kept them there playing pool until police came. If you rob somebody, that's your problem. Because an old man could say, I'll give you $100 and then told you to go to hell. So if you rob somebody, I don't care. But when somebody kills, I don't want them in my bar to kill somebody else. So I helped the police a couple of times. Robert Lackamore, a big shot sergeant, loved me for that. I said, this guy got robbed. I said, I couldn't care less. He's a nasty old man. Or I would warn a young man that you're not going to get the money, and I would warn you, if you shook somebody's hand and I didn't trust them, I go, Stephen, count your fingers. I'm telling you something. If you go home with him and comes back and say, you robbed me, don't tell me, I told you. Don't go home with him. I have to protect my customers. Here too, I watched it. Every time the door opens, my eyes go right to that door. I'm pouring a drink, I look. And they came in, and we were outside, and before you know, it was like 20 of us, 30 of us, 50 of us, 60 of us, the neighbors, people walking by, tourists, people walking their dog. The crowd got bigger and bigger. And then eventually, the riot squad came. And I could do something then I can't do now, run. And we all ran back to Mama's Chicken Room. And we said if the cops come in, we were here all night long. They never came in. But, it was a different time, It was so much fun shaking police cars, setting on fires, throwing rocks through the window, attacking the police. People go, were you afraid? We always said, hell no, we were having the time of our life. We've never been in one of those. I went to jail 10, 12 times just for being in a gay bar, overnight. You went before a judge, you're wasting my time, go home, or you're a pervert, $20 fine. And the boys would send Enid the Hat Girling down, she'd pay the fine. And
They'd send who?
Enid Girling, Enid the Hat, they called her. She died at 92. We found out why fines of $500, $600, $700 became $100 when she died. In her biography, she was actually giving the judge a blowjob, having sex with the DA on bathroom walls, desks, hallways, anything to get her gay clients off. And she used to, at the end, she used to give the judges kisses, candy, put it on the thing to get. She was like on the list 19. She'd go behind the desk, put candy, talk to the judge. Next minute, she was the first one. She had that much because they knew her for years. She didn't retire till she was 90 as a lawyer. And she was wearing ugly wigs, drank martinis. She was literally this big.
Like Ruth Westheimer. Did you know
Stormy D. LeVere?
Yeah.
I met her when she was in the Jewel Box Review in 1958, and I still have the program.
What was she like?
A pisser. Towards the end, nasty. Because they wouldn't let her drink in bars. She went crazy. She would threaten to close you down. She carried a gun. Because she was legally, like, she could bodyguard for people. When they had a benefit for her at Chelsea Lobster, which is now Elmo, I brought the actual program. I said, here, you'll sign it. I've been carrying it around for years. That book went around the room so many times to see. The Jewel Box Review was 35 men and a real woman. And you had to figure out who the real woman. It was Stormy. She had a mustache. And after the intermission, they'd say, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Stormy D. LeVere. The curtain would up, top hat and tails. She'd come out and sing a song or two as they changed the sets. And we stayed friends. She lived at Chelsea. And I live in Chelsea, so I used to see her on the streets all the time. I used to buy her drinks, and then late, other bars would say, no, can't buy her a drink anymore because she would go a little crazy. And one day I said, Stormy, you know, when I first met you, they were here. Now they're all the way down here. She had no teeth. Look in your mouth, fucking dagger. But we loved each other. And then when she was in a nursing home, they brought her to Henrietta Hudson one day, and Lisa said everybody online was paying homage to her. She was eating. All of a sudden, you get there. And she said, you're the first one she recognized, because she was like, but when you know somebody that many years.
Yeah.
She came to all my birthday parties, my Russian Christmas parties.
Can I just open the door to...
I'll lock it
You gotta unlock it?
I'll put this on pause. We are back on again. There's some comings and goings of folks, so that'll be heard on this tape, but there has to be business as usual. So, what happened the next day, the next couple of days after the riots? Did you come?
Well, we came the second day just to see what was going on. That's when the doors were covered, the windows were covered and everything. And there was a few people gathered out there. And we were a little nervous because, remember, my family didn't know yet. So every time I saw cameras, I would run. And we figured that was the end of all the gay night. Like the weekend after, we were walking up to Greenwich Avenue, and remember there was a women's home of detention where that park is.
Yes.
And the lesbians in there would light their pillows and throw them out the window. Come on, you fags, fight back, you know. It was good days.
All right, I'll put on pause. And we're on. We were talking about Stormy a bit, but that's right. We were talking about, your sense was that after the Stonewall riots, that you said gay life would never be the same again. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, this was our favorite bar. Like, this and the Fawn we loved. We figured that was it. It was, you know, I wasn't working at these Ninth Circle yet. We were just hanging out. Mommy's Chicken Ribbon here. And we figured no more, this is it, no more raids, it's over. And dancer?
Yeah.
Upstairs. And we figured that was it, no more raids. But there were one or two, but not bars we went to. And the following year, Charlie, Bubbles, a bunch of us are walking out, and we see the group with the flat banners and everything. We're going to walk up to Central Park. We thought they were nuts. And we saw friends of ours we said, they come with us. He said, no. And then Charlie said, let's go. But we were so afraid. When they walked up, parked cars, the march, and traffic up 6th Avenue, we walked on the sidewalk in case parents, because Charlie's mother didn't know. Frankie's mother was a real Italian woman. She would have buried him alive if she found out he was gay. You know, my son is a dad. I have no more son. So we walked on the side. We got to Central Park. Who's that speaking? I don't know. We came back down the village. And we figured that was the last march. To this day, they call it a parade. We still call it a march, the older people. And look at now. It's 49 years. It's going to be 50 soon. And I laughed that, you know, we didn't think it was going to be like that. We thought it was going to be the way we were in the beginning. Knocking on doors, sneaking in. When I wanted to have sex with you and you were from Jersey and I was from Brooklyn and we both lived with parents, nothing was locked. We would tiptoe on roofs of buildings and have sex or sleep and then go down when the sun came up.
So after Stonewall, your sense was that things weren't going to get better. You didn't have. We
had no sense of it. We thought it was just going to be the same thing. We didn't know that normal people would start opening bars.
Did you see flyers for the Gay Liberation Front or the Gay Activist Alliance or any of those groups that came afterwards?
No. We knew about the Madison Society. We knew about that lesbian Sisters of
Daughters of Bilitis.
We knew about them. We didn't know anybody who was a member. Dignity. We knew people that were in that. And what's the one with Larry Kramer started?
Well, that's later on. You mean ACT UP and GMHC?
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't like GMHC at the beginning because we had people that we needed help, but they couldn't help them. But they bought buildings and cars for themselves. And some of the bars took the GMHC cans off the bar and said, no. When a bar owner was very sick and his brother was an alcoholic, they said, we can only give you 2 hours a day. That's when all the bar owners said, screw you. That was at the beginning. We didn't even know what it meant, GMHC.
But the march in 1970, when you saw that was a surprise to you.
We didn't know. We come up Christopher Street to just go, walk up and down like we normally did. The big thing was you went from Perry Street, Greenwich Avenue, all the way around to 6th Avenue and Waverly and back for hours. You stop to talk to a group of people, keep walking. Come up Christopher Street as far as 7th Avenue and go back down. And this is the cops were standing on the corner. We called them Lily Law, Patty Patrol, Betty Badge, and they knew that because somebody would say, "Are you going to the party, Betty's Lily next week?" And the cops knew that was them. Or somebody would say to me, "Tree, does your father work?" I go, "No, he's a cop." "Tree, what's a penny made out of?" "Dirty coppers." And just to irritate them, or we'd do a conga line right past them, or we'd all line up. "We are the village girls. We wear our hair in curls. We wear our dungarees way up above our knees. We never go again." Just to irritate the police.
Martin Boyce said that was the song they sang as well, because there was another version of that. "We are the village girls. We wear our hair curls. We don't wear underwear. We show our pubic hair." So he said that's not what we sang. We sang the above our Nelly knees or whatever it was. What was it like for you to march that day, that spontaneous march? What did it feel like? What do you remember?
We walked up and just kept talking to each other, waving at our friends and everything. But the funny thing is, as we were passing everybody on the street, we heard people go, "Fag, queer, cocksucker, lesbian, blah, 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 blah." Even the police were calling names. And I always, when I lecture, I says, all of a sudden one day I went to bed and woke up. I was a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, cute. I said, that scared the hell out of me. Where did that come from? I was a fag. Now I'm a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, cute. I was afraid to go to sleep. I nodded off, woke up. I have a flag. I do not need a flag to tell me I'm a fag. I said, the only people making money now are the flag makers because everybody organization has a flag. When the guy's all in leather, he's a leatherman. He doesn't need a flag. When the guy's got hairy belly hanging out his back, that's a bear. And my friends used to laugh like crazy. Dancer?
How are you today?
If you're a customer, no.
He's the colleague.
All right.
Just have a seat for a few minutes.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Henry. You don't have to. We'll be done in just a bit.
Thanks, me. I'm gonna wait for Jackie.
Okay. When you got up to Central Park, there was that in the Sheep's Meadow and so on, that almost like a be-in.
Yes, somebody was making a speech, and we had no idea who it was.
What was it? What was that like for you? Was it nice?
We
Was
saw
it-
a lot of people that we didn't know and everything. We thought they were crazy. And
How
then
come?
they walked all the way up here to talk, somebody making a speech. The following year, Bette Midler saying you got to be friends. And we joined in, and then finally I started marching with friends because we know it wasn't going to be televised or anything. They always show the worst people. And one day, coming up 6th Avenue, when it was still 6th Avenue, we turned a corner. Coming out of a hotel was Dick Van Dyke and his family, and they wound up in the middle of the march walking with us, and all of a sudden they never knew what it was. And somebody told them, and he just started laughing. And then when they got towards the plaza, they jumped out. And then we had Phil Donahue and Marlo. They were grand marshals one year. Eddie the Skull Murphy was the boy, you know. He saved my life a few times. I was underage in a gay bar when the police raided it, and he grabbed me by the back of the neck, said to the cops, "I'll throw this faggot in the wagon." And when I get outside, he said, "Run." Because he was a police informant and an informant for the mafia. Because they caught him with underage, so he made deals with both sides. So he knew what bars were going to get raided, would make a phone call. And he liked me, thank God for that.
Yeah.
He started the street fair. When it first started, it was only gay bars and restaurants. And we had the pie throwing. You stuck your head, throw your pie at your favorite bartender. And then right next to it was a dunking booth down by the end where Badlands was. And if you hit the ball, I would fall in There's a picture of me standing in the water covered in my house and on Facebook. And one day I had my head through, and a friend of mine, Brian, came by with pies from a bakery, not the little plate. And I got hit a couple of times. So when I went over, I sat on the thing. The first person that hit the ball, I went under, and I stayed under and did this. And then came up, all the cream was out of my head. And then I had to go home and change because the owner said, "You got to work on Gay Pride because so many people come in as tree working." I was always off Sunday. So every Gay Pride I had to work something.
Mm-hmm.
People from Philadelphia, from all over, where's tree? So I had to work.
You're iconic.
No, I always, when people say, "What is it? You're an institution," I go, "No, I belong in an institution."
All right.
I know it embarrasses me when people go, little girls hug me, they come in with their father to buy, and they cry and they hug me. I mean, I shake.
Why?
I don't know. You know, it's just that I always say I went to jail. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of us around. Remember, if you were 15 and had $2, come on in.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, they paid off everybody. Still a lot of people alive.
Is it a surprise to you, given that you didn't think Stonewall was going, after the riots, that was going to equal anything? Are you surprised how Stonewall has become iconic for the entire?
Oh my God, yes! I'm so lucky to be still working here. I'll be 80 years old in April, and I don't intend to retire. The only way they're going to get out of here is if I drop dead behind the bar, and if they want, they could just lift up the floor mat and lay me there. And I'm very proud of working here. I enjoy talking about it. We have, when it first reopened, it was another person, Junior Mafia, that ran it into the ground. I never paid a bill. I used to bring money and buy my own liquor and everything to open. And then the duplex took it over, and Kurt is outrageously a great friend. I know him 30 years. Bill Morgan, the other owner, I know him 30 years. Tony DeSico, I only met him when I started working here. And we all get along so great. We laugh and talk. Kurt calls me Granny.
And you're talking about Kurt Kelly, one of the owners who we actually interviewed about 2 months ago.
And some of the kids call me Mom. Jason Dull calls me, he's a vice president of TD Bank, calls me Dad. And when his father died, he texted me. I cried. Now I only have one dad. And I have to call his mom Mom. And she's so much younger than me, and I call her Mom. But it's so much fun. I have so many friends on Facebook, it's ridiculous. People from all over the world. I met German people at Oktoberfest in Central Park. They had no idea. They came here 2 Saturdays ago, found out I was gay. But we all went to a German bar for drinks, and now I have all their phone numbers. where we're going to meet this weekend and go out for drinks again. All straight German people from all, Germany. And they just had a lot of fun with me, and I took them to a German bar, and they loved that bar. The owner goes, "Tree, you're trying to turn my bar gay?" I go, "Too late."
What's the state of where the LGBTQ community is now? What are your thoughts, feelings, aspirations? How do you feel about this administration and
Well, the administration, I always say he's not my president. I mean, when we hung the first gay flag over a national monument across the street, he was livid. And it's the first time in history of the United States that a gay flag has flown at a national monument, when Obama made 8.5 acres of the village a national park. And he scares me. He's a liar. He's a thief. With all the money, somebody would build something, and he said, "It's not the way I wanted it," and the guy lost $1 million because he was too... he declared bankruptcy so many times. I don't know why he's still alive. Obama was great to the gay community. When he mentioned Stonewall in his inauguration speech, I fell off my couch. And I wish he'd come and visit us someday.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of politicians come in around, shake hands and everything.
Yeah.
During the Gay Pride Parade, when I used to watch it, they all ran over and had to pose for pictures with me because everybody knew I was in the grandstand. And now I have to be in the parade either with the Imperial Court or, I was on the first float with Edie Windsor.
No?
I like it because I'm the first one done. But I knew she was getting there because 3 times during the same day she asked me my name, and she knew me for a long time. So, and then a couple of months later she died. She was a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
I liked her. I had so many pictures with me and her.
Are there any questions I didn't ask? Is there anything that you would like to mention?
AIDS.
Please.
As a bartender, I buried thousands of acquaintances, friends, and customers. I used to hate when people would come in and I could see that their skin was turning that tan before there was any kind of drugs. And I had a friend named Neil, we called him Bubble Butt because it came out like that. And walking behind him one day, it was like that.
Flat.
Flat as hell. And the people who swore it would never happen to them are gone. Johnny Marino, or Johnny Poole, who's Uncle Johnny on the Elvis Duran show, him and I have been friends 55 years. We look at each other and go, why are we still alive when 80% or 85% of our friends are all gone? Not AIDS, heart attacks, old age, cancer, and I always had safe sex, thank God. I always say I have my throat Teflon. But
That's cute.
it scared me that I lost so many people I loved. That's why my doctor said I'm going to bury him and a lot of my friends. So kidding around, I said I'm making friends with young people because when you're all dead, they'll be old enough to drink.
That's right.
And he laughs. My doctor thinks I'm nuts, but he loves me. Finally told me he's gay. And I make friends fast. All the customers were on Facebook. First time I meet them, we're friends. I'll put the drink in front of them and go, drink fast, my phone number's on one of your ice cubes. And I walk away. And it's buy one, get one free. They'll come back. I'll go, can I pay you a compliment? They always go, yes. I go, your hair is going to look so nice on my color pillowcase. By that time, they're at the bar. They're my new friend. Straight people come in. This is my straight brother. I go, straight boys taste good, just to watch their expression. And then I'll go, come on, you never had sex standing up in a shower with another guy? They go, hell no. I go, I'm going to be first. My new best friend. He's my new best friend. And sometimes they come back with a couple of their friends. That's the bartender I was telling you about. I have phone numbers, straight guys, even, Facebook. Their girlfriends get jealous sometimes. But I'm not having sex with them, for God's sake. If I had sex with everybody they thought I would, I'd be dead years.
Yeah.
And my penis would be dragging on the floor. Splinters. It's just that, I call my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're our future.
Yeah.
Some of them I want to kill because they're overdoing it. I'm a gay marriage. I don't want to get married. I had 2 lovers. I'm too old to get married. And I always tell people I like younger men and I'm afraid they'll marry me for the money I don't have. I don't belong to any of those crazy sites. I said, I don't have to. I'm a bartender. I travel with the Imperial Court. I just made a whole bunch of new friends in Hawaii. Mostly bartenders, because a bartender becomes best friends with a bartender. And that's it.
It's a very certain world that you all live in, right? And you share. Shall we allow you to have your lunch?
How was it? Is that all right for you?
Oh yeah, yeah.